post-pandemic. And we know as part of the construction industry, we are a big part of this pollution and greenhouse. So as part of construction industry, we'll have to make our ways together.
So you will have to share sound.
Okay. So, okay. So basically, now we are bringing a lot of expert within our organization on sustainability so that we can be part of your digitization and net zero partner. That's the focus. So as an organization, of course, construction is our major focus. But apart from that, we are also into supporting customers in manufacturing, media, entertainment, and government sectors. We work with educational institutes for better focus on digital technologies. And of course, we have some more services, and especially what we're going to talk at the end about is how are we supporting you with our training and consulting services. So I'll not take much time. I like to hand over back to Farad so that we have more time for our key speakers.
Thank you, sir. So let me come back to the presentation. Okay, so our next speaker is Dr. Architect Namrata Kalsi. So she is a senior government official specializing in building architecture, metro rail, urban planning, transit-oriented development, and real estate ecosystem with extensive knowledge of building bylaws and legal processes. She worked in Delhi Metro Railway Corporation as Senior Additional GM Architecture, Chief Architect at New Delhi Municipal Corporation, in DSIIDC as Senior Architect, and come AGM projects in GMADA and PUDA. So, Namrata ma'am, I would like you to please take over and share your knowledge with the participants.
You are on mute, ma'am.
Thank you, Farhad. And now you will have to allow me to share my screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
And am I audible? Is the screen on presentation mode?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You are fully audible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Namrata Kalsi, and today I have been given the responsibility of discussing cloud-based collaboration between owner, consultant, and the contractor, with little bit of, leaning on DMRC Phase 4 projects. So DMRC, if I see, has been a leader in construction industry. But as far as BIM is concerned, some time back, it felt that it is lagging back. So maybe the reason was that the Phase 4 DMRC had started somewhere in 2011 when BIM was still in nascent stage in India. So by the time this thing of Phase 4 came, it was already 2017. And we had started re-looking at the policy framework of DMRC for different objects. And that was the time when it was felt that we must now upgrade to BIM from AutoCAD. So this slide has been kept deliberately confusing because that is how we felt when we started. So we felt that we require solutions for our particular requirement. And we needed some person to do our hand-holding who would understand DMRC requirements, offer a solution, not just a product, understand needs and deliver the best combination of products and services to fit our processes and work methodology perfected over a period of time. And somebody on whom we can trust in the collaboration, who could provide us the world's best software and hardware as well, and offering the latest solutions. So in that, After doing a search, DMRC came out with BIM implementation plan, in which DMRC was the client and Capricorn became our consultant. So that is why we were able to collaborate with our consultants like AECOM, Aegis, Aisha, and our different contractors. So today the topic was more on hospitals. So people must be confused that why they have invited an architect from DMRC to give the presentation. So this slide is there to basically compare the similarity between hospital and DMRC, which are both extremely technical and precision oriented buildings. Both have air conditioning, both need the requirement of pressurization, both require smoke extraction, both require very careful. At one place we are dealing with masses, and the hospitals are dealing with those people who are temporarily indisposed. While these are the similarity, the difference is that we may be looking at signaling, telecom, traction, which are specialized requirement of DMRC, while hospitals will be requiring, these oxygen, hospital gases, garbage disposal, and other things. So that means that whatever solution DMRC had struck upon on its, NDVO, maybe will also suit hospitals. So in collaboration with Capricorn, so we worked around and brought out a very simple solution that we may be working on Revit models, which will be shared and which will be published. And that is Autodesk BIM 360. So working further more into detail, this is a very simplified model of what DMRC is doing. That there are basically three softwares, a Revit, BIM, and we have Navisworks for clash detection. And DMRC purchased the cloud storage from the company in which all the work is going on. So the Revit model is used by the consultants to prepare the 3D model of the building, which they upload on the cloud, which is then viewed by everybody through BIM 360, which is a shared model. It's viewed, it's reviewed, comments and issues are raised. Navisworks is used to address clash detection. Then we can also load documents, and in the end, e-signatures for GFC is also possible. So on the right side, you will see another solution which we followed is that DMRC was quite familiar with Primavera P6 and did not want to utilize any other software. So so there was a bridge, there was a gap there between this Revit, BIM and cloud combination and Primavera P6, which was covered by a software, GAP software, which was Mensico, in which there will be 5D monitoring of the project and financial calculations also. So for this, DMRC had taken license from BIM 360, which has been recently upgraded to 2023, and AEC Collection 2023, which I will discuss later. So when we are using these three keywords, I just want to very briefly elaborate on them. That building information modeling is for architects, landscape, structural engineers, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers, designers, and contractor. Because the software allows the users to design a building and structure with its component in 3D, annotate the model with 2D drafting elements. जैसे dimension जो है, we do it on documents in 2D. And access building information from the building model database. At some places you click and you will get all the properties of that element. Like if it is a lift and you click on it, you will get entire that whether it is how many passenger lift it is, what is the size of the gate, whether it is a through lift or it is a single lift, how many stories, like you will get complete information on single click. Of course, you have to feed that information, which will be done by your lift contractors. Revit is 4D building information modeling capable with tools to plan and track various stages in the building life cycle from concept to construction and later maintenance and or demolition. Because O&M is very important for DMRC because trains have to be run. So at some stage, we have to connect the construction drawings as well as the maintenance documents. Second thing is BIM, that is building information modeling. Now BIM are computer files which can be extracted, exchanged, and networked to support decision making regarding a built asset. So it is created to address architecture, engineering, construction, which is AEC industry, lack of collaboration among consultants. Many of us who are in this line must have seen कि drawing बन गई है, site पे आई नहीं. Engineer wants to give it to the contractor, and contractor is simply, losing his timeline because the drawing which is already made is not available to them. So all these problems are overcome through BIM. मतलब जैसे I have worked in many sections of government and realized that something called a file is very important for us. तो सारा कुछ file में जाता है, approval होके वापस आती है. I can safely say that BIM is a replacement for that file, the legacy of the previous generations. तो सारे documents, सारी letters, सारा सब कुछ इसमें BIM में होता है, and it can be accessed by anybody at any time, of course as per the this thing given by us, क्योंकि हम लोग हर एक को पूरी access नहीं देते, depending on the person and the level, but those documents are available forever on the virtual world. Exchange of data and real-time collaboration among consultants, conceptual design to the detailed construction drawing stage and through the project life cycle. Just a second, I'm not able to, okay. It is used by individuals, businesses, government who plan, design, construct, operate, and maintain building and physical infrastructure such as water, refuge, electricity, gas, road, ports, railway, communication, utilities, bridges, and tunnels. कहने का मतलब है कि in this construction industry, anybody and anyone can use it with any requirement, and the solutions are available. It is a process supported by various tools, technologies, contracts involving the generations and management of digital representation of physical and functional characteristic of places, what Farhad explained. Benefit includes seamless communication, monitoring real-time progress, and visualization. This line I will discuss later on 4 slides, which are critical. So 4 phases of BIM is evaluation, project pre-planning, execution of plan and construction, and later operation and maintenance. This I would like to make it short because I don't want it to be boring. One of the robust combinations facilitating real-time collaboration, practice of using a network of remote servers. मतलब अभी तक तो हम लोग भी वो यूज टू कि मेरा कंप्यूटर है, मेरे टेबल पे पड़ा है, मेरे साइड पे उसका सीपीयू है और सारा डेटा जो स्टोर हो रहा है, मैनेज हो रहा है, प्रोसेस हो रहा है, इट इज ऑन माय वर्क स्टेशन. तो समझ लो आई रिटायर or I get posted out. What happens to that data? Is that data, which is there in diverse officers table, is it ever collated? So with cloud computing, we overcome that issue. This moves the development framework of application from client server to host server. BIM cloud enables real-time secure teamwork between architects regardless of size of the design project, the location of office, or speed of the internet connection. You can really understand that the DMRC staff are sitting in their various offices. Like for one of the project, I was sitting in Ashoka Road. Our team leader was sitting in Metro Bhavan. Then our site team was working in their site offices, and our consultant was sitting in their offices, and their team of consultant was sitting like structure, MEP, they were all sitting in different buildings. And during the COVID time, we were able to deliver or make the thing faster because of only this reason. Cloud-based BIM allows architects, engineers, and contractors to easily access their 3D models from virtually anywhere. मतलब हम लोग कई बार अपने मोबाइल में साइट पे भी ओपन करके एक्सप्लेन कर लेते हैं. A process which really makes the thing short. नहीं तो पहले क्या होता था, हम लोग कोई ड्राइंग भूल गया, नहीं आई, हम लोग ऑफिस में वापस जाते थे, वहां प्रिंट लेते थे, उसको भेजते थे, ईमेल करते थे, अगला खोलता था. तो that entire loss of time is now shortcut. Storing BIM information in cloud means stakeholder can upload and access the latest version of their model and work from a single source of truth. So this is a very important line. कई बारी क्या होता था कि different consultant वो different versions of drawing पे work करते थे. तो पता लगता था कि MEP people have worked on a drawing which is older. And as a result, they had to redo the work, or it was of no use, or the site पे वो चीज implement हो जाती थी which was not the source of truth. So all these things are overcome क्योंकि इसमें क्या होता है कि different model is made by the architect and the MEP and the structure and the other system contractors. और जब वो एक circle complete होता है and when they update, we consume the model of the latest changes that has taken place and make those changes in our drawing. So उससे गलती के chances जो हैं काफी reduce हो जाते हैं. So this definition already for Farhad is covered. So I'll move to the next one. So these are the BIM goals: project collaboration, pre-construction project visualization, model-based cost estimation, value engineering, improved coordination, reduce cost, improve scheduling, and increase productivity, which is a dream of all construction agency. So this is the this slide is just a cover slide for traditional workflow vis-a-vis BIM workflow at DMRC. So this slide is showing the difference between what we were doing in phase 3 and what is being done in phase 4 is 2D work versus 3D workflow. So in this, you can easily compare the difference in the sense that 2D meant that when we were working in AutoCAD, whether it is a wall or it is a door or it is a lift or it is a rail, it was always a line. While in BIM Revit combination, if there is a wall, it is a wall, 4.5-inch wall with a brick, or whether it is concrete or it is a brick block, that thing is defined in the parameters where we give the properties, and we actually get a building which is actually going to be built. So there is no difference between the two. So it is more intuitive and it is far easier to understand and even make the drawings. So the second big difference is at the tender stage, where the quantity takeoff is the Revit. Earlier, what we used to do, we used to lay down the specification and put down the rate, do the units, do the quantity, and take out this. To support this, we had to do quantity takeoff sheets, which were very elaborate. पर फिर भी गलतियां रह जाती थी, कई क्वांटिटी छूट जाती थी, कोई ज्यादा हो जाती थी, which was a big thing at the time of settling of the contractor's bill. While in case our Revit model is complete and all these things have been incorporated in the drawings, then the quantity that comes out is fairly accurate. Third is the virtual coordination. In virtual coordination, I've already discussed earlier that how during the COVID time, we collaborated on the BIM as well and on the virtual screen to make our drawings even before time. For all the architects and the engineers, see how much time is saved by a person if instead of a physical meeting, there is a virtual meeting. So this is one of the implementation plan instructions given to the contractor vis-a-vis Nevis work, that the clash detection has to be architecture versus architecture, architecture versus structure, architecture versus MEP, and structure versus MEP. And contractor is to do structure versus architecture, structure versus structure, and structure versus MEP. So when this list first comes out, you will be very surprised to understand that sometimes there are 600, 700, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, even 10,000 clashes. मतलब पहले क्या होता था कि हम लोग ऐसे ही drawing दे देते थे because we did not have mean to understand that where the actual clashes are happening. Because if the clash is happening, your quantity will also not come out correct. So with this clash detection, if you work properly and able to remove clashes, then you will get a fairly accurate model and fairly accurate drawings which are extracted from the model. And in the last project for which we had issued the GFC, there were 0 clash left in the entire model. After that, once the construction is started, then there is this project monitoring. Earlier, in the earlier method I've seen in so many departments, every department and administrator used to evolve a table कि मेरे जो साइट के इंजीनियर हैं उसको ऐसे भरेंगे, ये बताएंगे, क्वांटिटी बताएंगे, यूनिट बताएंगे, and so many other ways. तो उसमें इंजीनियर का काफी टाइम जो वेस्ट हो जाता था बाय प्रिपेयरिंग दो शीट्स फॉर द एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव और एमडी और देयर चीफ इंजीनियर मीटिंग. बट इसमें क्या है कि although you do have to generate certain reports, but ये है कि the administrator can from his desktop see कि actual truth क्या है. क्योंकि वो जो रिपोर्ट सबमिट होती थी, everybody knows that sometime there was some fudging also in case you wanted to hide something. बट इसमें सब कुछ नजर आ जाता है, क्योंकि जो डीएमआरसी ने मेथड इवॉल्व किया है उसमें वर्क ब्रेकडाउन शेड्यूल होता है कि हमने जिस तरीके से कंक्रीट आरसीसी को कास्ट करना है उतने पीसेस में बिल्डिंग को ब्रेक करती है, और जब वो कास्टिंग होती है उसको उसी तरीके से हम लोग प्रोग्रेस रिपोर्ट में दिखाते हैं. एंड यू कैन वेरी वेल अंडरस्टैंड कि अगर इसने किसी ने बिल करनी है और उसकी क्वांटिटी निकालनी है तो हाउ इजी इट विल बी, बिकॉज your construction scheduling is matching with your architectural, your structure, your MEP drawings, and you can literally, work out the entire schedule in 3D on BIM and Revit. So this is the model very simply placed is that in the center we have kept BIM 360 collaborative environment in which our detailed design consultant in Metro, the architect is called detailed design consultant because it also includes structures and MEP. And on the other hand, there is contractor, on this side is their owners. So under this framework, there is one option where we keep all our policies, all our processes and different technologies which are being used, information and people. For this, I would also like to say that Capricorn had actually arranged for us hardware, software, as well as training. So that training was very useful. Actually, there'll be two type of people attending this seminar. One will be those who are working by hand and those like us who have consultants. So the thing which has to be learned by those people who are actually making the drawings by hand is slightly different from administrators like us, who do more like monitoring and commenting. So that difference is there, and which is adequately handled by Capricorn by giving appropriate training, so that the time of officers is not wasted. Because if there are some government departments who are participating in this seminar, they will understand कि होता क्या है कि आपकी ट्रेनिंग फिक्स हो जाती है, लेट्स से कि 1 month की. अभी आप वहां पे पहुंचे हो ट्रेनिंग पे, पीछे से पीपल स्टार्ट कॉलिंग कि तुम्हारी फाइल कहाँ है, तुम्हारा काम कहाँ है, कहाँ रह गया, और आपको ट्रेनिंग पीछे छोड़ के जानी पड़ती है. So then what happens is like that means that 3 month or 4 month training is sometime may not be that useful because that information we simply don't require. So that the training module by Capricorn is very appropriate that we are able to finish our training properly within the given time. So now coming back to the drawings, although we have number of different levels, but the main 4 stages are conceptual model, tender stage, GFC, and as-built model. So this is a graphical representation of a conceptual design in which the architect and the architect of the DDC team is in the center and all the other key departments are on the side. Like in our case, we have signaling, we have traction, we have rolling stock, and we have alignment. In case of hospitals, this will be replaced by hospital consultant, while the design means structures, E&M, and other people, team members will remain same. So all these people give their information, which is a two-way flow to prepare the conceptual drawings. After the conceptual drawings are approved, we go to tender stage model, in which more important things are specifications, BOQ, and information model. So all those items in the model are actually modified to correlate with these specification, and then the quantities are taken out. So now we have a system in which the tender drawings are there, which are extracted from the same model, and the quantities also which are extracted from the same model. So the chances of a difference between the two is reduced to a large extent. Then we have a construction stage model in which the BIM now comes in the center, and instead of the architect, it's the civil team who is doing the construction at site which comes in the center and who coordinates with the contractor. So we have this, that there's a team of consultant for which the coordinating officers are architects, and there is a team of contractors for which the coordinating officers are the civil, E&M, rocks, and other things. And there is a two-way exchange between this, and this is really amazing because we have been able to finalize drawings with the contractor, because DMRC has a design built tender. Design built tender means that in this, the structure design is made by the contractor after he does the detailed survey. So the detailed survey may sometimes bring a lot of changes. That is why DMRC felt appropriate to give this work to him. So he plays an important role, and there is the contractor's structural engineer who also comes into picture. So with this, the GFC drawings are released, and whereafter, once the construction is done, as built model come into picture. So these as built drawings are then passed to O&M, who can do their asset tagging and use the same document for operation and maintenance. See the beauty of the whole thing. जिस चीज पे concept बना है, उसी पे tender drawing, उसी के ऊपर आपकी GFC completion drawing, उसी के ऊपर आपकी asset management हो रही है. And maybe you can correlate it with the, we have not yet reached the stage, but I'm quite sure you can correlate it with your, like if there's a generator or there is an AC and they have a system of, maintenance and other schedules, you can catch up the schedules through this software. I'm very sure. I think after this, maybe Mr. Chakresh or Fahad can clarify this further. So actually, the whatever I wanted to explain ended here, but there are two things which I want to share. At the time of starting BIM, we had taken one BIM coordinator who was deployed in DMRC office from the DDC side, detailed design consultant side. And the first and foremost thing is the folder structure. So this folder structure is having architecture, structure, model sharing, documentation, clash detection, and shared. So I will quickly run through this because every department will have their own method. So this is only a thing to show that this is a very important thing of folder in which every agency puts their own document for other professionals to view. So this is for the DDC. This is for the contractor. This is where the model is shared amongst everybody. This is the contractors, like we have signaling, telecom, who are co-contractors, and hospital we have like hospital gases, garbage, and other thing. And this is the documentation where all approved GFC, signed GFC are placed, and e-signature is placed in this by circulation in the BIM itself. So then we have clash detection, which I already discussed. IMPS also I already discussed, which is through work breakdown schedule, in which every piece of concrete is, given a timeline. And then there is a temporary folder in which if two agencies have to sort out some issues, it can be done here, which is a single stage step. Then another important thing which I want to share is the workflow. Now, every department has their own workflow. So this was the workflow which was latest developed by us, that how the drawings will travel. Unless we don't define the workflow, the drawings will get lost on the way. Like if there's a contractor, he will send the drawings to CPM, which will come to DMRC architecture, DDC architecture, structure, MEP, and DMRC design, which is structures, which will go back to CPM and it will go back to contractor. Now here I want to share one small problem which we overcome here, that you cannot have more than six levels. So although at this stage we wanted to have DMRC architect just before the CPM as an additional step, but we could not do it. But it is manageable if you just sort of find out a solution. So there are different workflows that DMRC, single step, double step, different for design, different for structures, different for sketching. So these tables are there, you have to define, which can be done by the BIM coordinators given by your consultants. So these are different ones. So coming to the last slide, which is the BIM collaboration in DMRC. So the BIM development tool was AEC, Autodesk Architecture, Engineering, Construction, and Industry Collection. So I must say over here that in this, Capricorn was our consultant, and it is a very successful partnership in which we have already DC06, which was a pilot project, is quite on the way, and DC05, which is following, is also addressing the slightly very few remaining issues to be handled. But the Revit, which was for model development, BIM 360, which was for interface collaborating among different stakeholders like architecture, civil structure, MEP, signaling and telecom, Navis work for clash detection component, and BIM coordinator given by DDC. So this very simple format has been able to solve our problem, and we have been able to achieve what we had started thinking in year 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So actually your successful BIM implementation at Delhi Metro has motivated and guided other nodal organizations also to implement BIM. And we are like working with all those organizations. And it is actually helping to save a lot of people's tax money, because you guys are involved in the public project. And I also remember that during the lockdown, DMRC, because you already implemented cloud, so because of the lockdown, the work never stopped. So, and the design was going on seamless, and the coordination was also going on easily. So that was a really good experience for us also, man. So it was a great working with you and your organization. So thank you, ma'am, for that.
Thank you, Farhad. And thank you to participants who listened to us very patiently.
Right, ma'am. So now moving on to our next speaker is Mr. Rohit Jain. So he is founding partner at RSMS Architects. He completed his BR degree from NIT Bhopal in 1992 and later went to do his master's in building engineering and management from SP Delhi in 98. He has over 28 years of experience and with a focus in the field of construction and technology and detailing involved in construction documentation and workflows. He is responsible for all overseas projects at RSMS and handles the business operations. So, Rohit sir, over to you.
Thank you, Farhad. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everybody. Allow me to just... Yeah. So I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So, in fact, good afternoon to everybody. At the onset, I would really like to thank Chakareshi, Amitji, and Capricorn for organizing this webinar and inviting me as a speaker. It was interesting and enlightening to hear architect Namrata Kalsi talk about the journey that DMRC has taken towards BIM. And it's very encouraging to see the new workflows that have evolved over a period of time. I have had the good fortune of working with DMRC on multiple projects, And indeed, the 6 levels that she spoke about are actually quite frustrating at times. And, it has their own challenges. But now that they have started their journey on, on Revit and the new workflows have been introduced, I'm very sure that the DDCs will have a very pleasant time working with DMRC. And so moving on to my part of presentation, Farhad, thank you for introducing me. Now I would like to introduce my firm. RSMS Architects is an architectural firm based out of Basant Kunj, New Delhi. And among the other things we do, healthcare design is one of our strongest offerings. So over the next 10-15 minutes, I'm going to share with you my understanding of using the BIM approach, especially for healthcare projects. And I sit on the other side of the table where architect Kalsi sits. So you can see that the ma'am sits on the client side and I'm on the architect side. So you will see my presentation based on how we use Revit or how we use the BIM to drive the solutions that we provide to our clients. So my presentation would be around the theme is that approach to healthcare through BIM and how we did it. So just before I begin my presentation, whenever there's a discussion about BIM and Capricorn, I'm reminded that way back in 2004, Chakresh ji had introduced me to Revit. And I have remained indebted for you, Chakresh ji, for introducing me to this wonderful tool. In fact, the first license, if you remember, we acquired it in 1998. And Capricorn has been very selflessly supporting us for the past 25 years. So I hope with my experience with Revit, I would be able to actually add value to this ongoing discussion.
I think, Rohit, it's always partnership in business. Yeah, thank you very much for your kind words. Yes.
No, Chakresh ji, it's been a very, very selfless support that I have been receiving from you and Amit ji. Thanks a lot, sir. So when Farhad and Capricorn actually approached me for this topic of the presentation, and there was a very small segment that said, how did you do it? So it got me thinking that what should I say on this topic? I had options of showing some fancy building shapes, some very massive projects, and examples of 3D visualization, services coordination that typically happens. But then I decided that why can't I just focus my presentation on the decision-making process of it? And I'm so glad that I chose the right approach, because that's what I saw in Madam Kalsi's presentation. That there is a lot of element in the architecture, in delivering architecture, that is about taking decisions and how the architects need to present the data to the clients so that they can participate with you and take the decisions. So I will talk about this BIM approach along with the examples. So the examples that you will see are not very complex geometries or any beautiful renderings, but they are simple diagrams which we have used by using the BIM approach. So allow me to build up the context with this first slide. So the building that you see in front of you is called the Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute. Now, I would like to show this as an example to highlight the complexities that are involved in the hospital project. It is my understanding that this will help us appreciate the importance of BIM approach. So if you look at the hospitals that are built around the city, you will see that you will realize that many hospitals since the 1990s, with the hospitals that have been built before the 1990s are all due for upgrades. So their reasons are there are pressure on the land, there is increased FAR in the city, there are changes in the healthcare delivery mechanisms, there are commercial reasons that are forcing the owners to upgrade their hospitals. Now, all these hospitals are existing hospitals with functional electrical substations, pump rooms, air conditioning systems. To upgrade these would mean that the architect would have to add or integrate with the existing system. There are problems of noise control, people movement that have to be controlled with every step. And all of this is a very, very complex task, and it requires a lot of information and data that has to be handled. And it has to be presented in the drawing in such a way that people can take decisions and the implementation can be planned. In my opinion, architects require immense experience in these services and should have a very strong experiences when it comes to upgrading the hospitals. And they have to provide the input to the clients to keep the hospitals functional. Out of all the hospitals we have done, RGCI is one of the works that makes us proud. And I'm very proud to say that we managed to keep the clients, we managed to help the clients keep the hospital functional while we added the floors. That means that their ICUs, operation rooms, their parking, the medical gas system, everything remained operational while the new floors were added. And the noise levels were controlled and the fire norms were kept fully compliant. Now the other project is, while the previous example was that of a hospital that was upgraded, this slide shows a hospital which is a 350 bedded hospital that is newly built in Lucknow. The client for this project had a very different approach. He wanted to be an active participant in the planning process. And he wanted to be involved when the departmental layouts were being finalized. Now, we work very closely with the client, and I would attribute the success to the fact that the architect and client could jointly work and arrive at a mutually acceptable solution. Like Madam Kalsi said that, there is a lot of coordination that was happening in the DMRC project between the contractors and the consultants and DMRC. It's the same logic that you can see over here. And we found it. And this means that we had to produce content for the client, which could be understood by the non-technical decision makers. Usually architects and engineers can very well understand the drawings. But for the clients who are a doctor, for them to understand the drawings takes a lot of efforts. They may sit at the meeting and say, yes, we understand, but it is usually the implication is understood after a little progress has been made in the designs. Now, this may be, this may sound very easy, but take my word, sitting and discussing with the clients has its own set of challenges. But regardlessly, we did this project and it was a very successful project, and we managed to do a future projects with them in Chennai, Gurgaon, and any other location. So the message that I want to convey with this slide is that it is not the architects or the engineers who independently deliver a project. There is a significant credit that goes to the client teams who help an architect in decision making and for contributing constructively. And architects have to use the tools that will help the questions the client may have. And I will build upon this concept to illustrate how we use BIM as a tool to approach the healthcare design. So, as I demonstrated earlier, there has to be a realization that doing the healthcare project requires an ability to handle and process large amount of information and then presenting that information suitably. The BIM approach actually helped us in making these routine tasks possible. And there are only two concepts that are the essence of today's talk. I don't know if you noticed, they were covered in Madam Kalsi's presentation also, but here's what I will repeat it here. The concept number one is a common data environment. Ma'am had shown us the folder structure. I will not go into the folder structure, but I will talk about the same concept, which is the common data environment. It is and the second concept would be the data management during the building life cycle. So many of us in this audience, we have consultants who are amongst us who have experiences in the healthcare, and they will acknowledge that, there should be a realization that the thing that is needed is how do you handle and manipulate large amount of data, and that data keeps on changing as the project progresses. It means that one is required to balance the need and requirements of the multiple stakeholders. It also means that the design gets, when a design gets a shape, the stakeholders will start seeing the things more clearly and they will start changing the designs. For us consultants, it means that we have to accept that outcome, that the things will change and we will have to keep pace with it. And we have to keep pace with it while maintaining the integrity of the data. So we like to, what the concept actually says, that you like to store every information in one common place. This place is often called as a common data environment. And, you know, this common data environment, sometimes today Autodesk has a solution which calls it the Autodesk Construction Cloud. There will be, Bentley would have some other solution. There are other people who use even things like Google Drives, or places like Microsoft Azure as platforms to, or Amazon platforms to store the data in a common place. But right now, let's talk only about the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and the tools that we use to collaborate would be the BIM 360 platform, where you can co-author of a design. So the consultants, the architects and all will be working on the same set of data, which will be knitted together. So it's the same approach what was used in the yesteryears in terms of XREFs. So the same story happens over here in the BIM environment using the BIM 360. And that is the fundamental concept. You are expected to keep the data in such a way that it is accessible to everybody who has the rights. You are expected to build up this data as and when the information becomes available. You remember Madam Kalsi talking about the elevator, where she said that, yes, the elevator will be modeled. And when you get the information that, you know, somebody has to put in that information that there are 6 people in that elevator, it's a 6-person elevator. It is made by a certain manufacturer. And all that information will be stored over there. And then you can pull it out when you need it. Different people can pull it out and access and use that information. So this is the second concept. And from this CDE, the common data environment, different people can extract the data as they need it. The hardware consultants can take the data about the doors. Say, it's an example that in case you have a common data environment for which you have a Revit model already placed, so the door consultant might come in and pull out his data he needs about doing the hardware planning. And there'll be endless such situations that you can experience in this. So just as a short, I could say that we have to realize that the common data environment is a repository for all to access and the use. And there is a place for everything, and you are expected to keep the things in the right place. That is the mandatory requirement, which requires the skills and a little bit of discipline. Now, there is another, you know, this is the last theoretical fact that I'm going to state from my experience. So it is a fact that, you know, it is very relevant in healthcare design. There, the data will shift hands. It will shift hands from the design stage. When it changes, the ownership of the data will change from design to construction. The ownership will change. And when it is handed over to the client, the ownership will change. And every time this ownership changes, there is going to be a significant, you know, inconsistency, and some kind of a data loss will happen. And the data loss, what has been found in the research study is that it is immense data is lost when the data changes hand. However, the BIM approach will allow us to reduce this inconsistency, and it will help us reduce the data loss. It will not eliminate it, but at least you can have a fair bit of control on the data loss. And if you use the BIM approach, then you will see that during all the stages of the building life cycle, the data consistency can be maintained. So now let's look at some examples after this. So in front of you is a hospital project that we did with a firm called AECOM. Brilliant architects based in the US whom we supported in this project. Now the project is called the King Khalid Medical City, and you have to understand, you know, the scale by understanding how big it is. It is a big podium of 4 floors on which there are 4 towers that stand tall. The podium is approximately 900 meters long, and each floor is approximately 12 acres, you know, approximately 12 acres. Now, if you look at this floor plan, what you will see is that the entire floor is populated with rooms and consultant rooms and different other rooms. And there is tons and tons of equipment over there. So to imagine the size and the complexities, you should consider that any large hospital would have the number of consultant room for a particular specialty as say 5 or 10 consultant rooms at max. Here, approximately, there was, on the lower count, there would be 30 consultation rooms. And it's hats off to the equipment planner who was involved in this, and the hats off to the designers who were actually working on this project, that they managed to plan this facility. There were approximately 40 operation theaters on one floor, and the approximate door count was 20,000 people, 20,000 doors. And the complexities was such that every time in a consultant room, if you move the wash basin, you had to plan to move the electrical outlets, which had certain specifications with it. In terms of data, this means that each consultant room would have a set of medical equipment, its own plumbing and electrical needs. And to add to the complexities, there was a requirement to see it from an architectural aesthetic point of view, that every consultant room should look a little different. Now, to manipulate and process this kind of a data, you require a lot of skills, and diligence is needed. So the BIM approach actually helps you in achieving this deliverables. Now, taking it the different, a different angle is that one of the most important stage in any hospital design is something called a departmental layouts. So out of one of the projects, this is one of the simple layouts that I'm sharing with you. So the image in front of you shows you a departmental layouts that are color coded, and they are very frequently needed by the client teams for their internal discussions. So when the clients first hire you, they will actually tell you that this is the requirement that we have. They will have an area program that they would have worked out. And then they would like to actually validate that information with every stage of the design. So you will have some departments, and then you will have each department review will give the inputs on those layouts, and they will tell the architect that, listen, this doesn't work for us. We need you to actually focus on this part. The certain departmental relationship is not working. So all of this is very easily understood if you have something like a color-coded diagrams. You will have to have some area statements to support it. So from the you see the two set of images. The left and the right is the same layout, same architectural layout, but they show very different information. So in short, what we have to understand is that requirement management in a healthcare design is a management process. So like Madam Kalsi had talked about the workflow, similarly in a healthcare design, you have to keep on constantly managing whether you are in sync with the client requirements or not. So the simple diagrams which are color coded and generated on these BIM platform, which can be used for managing and controlling and refining the requirements. So these are the system. It should be understood as a systematic process of fulfilling the requirements across all phases of project. Supposing if these are the layouts that you're using on a later stage of the project, you would have a requirement, say at the initial stages of the project, where you will have some kind of departmental relationship diagrams, which will say, okay, overall, we are going to give, you see on this chart, you will see that there are some areas mentioned. There is a graphic colored coded diagram where the client teams can understand this, the location of their department on a certain floor. These are usually created at a concept design stage. So there is a connection between the message is that there is a connection between the requirement and the model. And BIM tools actually help you visualize and get your designs verified from the client. So they are very clear in understanding what they are getting at the end is what you are talking about right now. Very often you will see the buildings are very different from the initial renderings that are prepared for those buildings. You will start with the design, and by the time the design is done, it comes out to be a very different thing from what had been imagined in the first go. So the BIM approach actually allows you to get verifications at the required stages whenever you want. This contributes to reducing the time that you spend on the design analysis and the approvals. So when you are looking for approvals, you have to keep in mind that the client is, once the client says, okay, then there are cost implications if he changes it later on. So you would want that client to be well informed so that he has understood the drawings. And at each stage, you can see the same drawings at the same stages, how it varies and how he can be informed about the decisions that he has to take. So in more refined forms, I can say the BIM approach can allow you to quickly create presentation layouts showing departments such as areas and departments. Now, this is a very common example. I'm going to very quickly skip through it, where you can, we all know how to color code the services and then show how the services travel, and then you can resolve the, how the buildings, how with architecture they have a clash, or with the services they have a clash. So these color-coded services allow you to work out the alternate ways, and these are usually done towards the important milestones for you to just understand if any alternate routes can be worked out. Now, in every, there's another example that I would like to show you over here, is a example of how you can extract information and take decisions. So in front of you is a slide where, in every hospital, there is always a special emphasis on the walls. There is a need to be considered that the walls need to have certain sound properties like absorption, the transmission, the surface finishes, protections from impact, maintenance. The walls will be the host for conduits and pipes. So there are immense uses that the immense information that is already there in the model that has to be shown in a certain way to take a decision. So in this example, what you're seeing is the evaluation and verification of the sound properties, and not the sound properties, sorry, about the impact protections on the walls. That certain walls need to be protected for the movement of the carts and the equipment. So, and the wall protection is an expensive piece of item of the work. Very rarely, only the good hospitals in India actually do it. It's an emerging thing where you can see, it's not just putting a crash rail on the wall, or you're putting some corner guards over there. These items are miscellaneous items which get added after the project is completed. Now, in this diagram, you can see the different color coded, where you can define your own, codes that, certain need an impact resistance, certain need an impact resistance to a higher level and grade. There are some other things where you need to prevent the water, prevent the walls from, kind of a stains, or some kind of a different kind of a protection is needed. So with the click of a button, you can very easily use BIM to generate some diagrams that can be presented to the clients for decision making. Similarly, if you look at this example, it's the same set of data where you are seeing the different sound properties. So there has to be somebody who has fed in this information into the model. And then the next task is to look at the model and pull out the information based on how you want to look at it. So in this example, you're looking at the STC values of the walls. So the only information that you see is that there are no dimensions, there are no other information which will cloud your, they will obscure the information. All you are seeing is the color-coded walls. You will see whether there is enough wheelchair access, there is a bed movement tolerances or not. The equipments are grayed out so that you can just understand whether the spaces for movement are there or not. So all of this information is in the same set of drawings. You can see this information. And the teams which are responsible for visual inspection from the client side can look at it quickly. And, they can look at their own QC processes. They can have their own internal discussions And one has to remember that these things will become far more important now that we are seeing more of the new drywall construction in India. The government in all the projects is now promoting the lighthouse concepts, where they are even building a lot of houses with, residential projects are being done with drywall, with gypsum board partitions and with metal framing. These are very common in the projects that are done abroad, but in India, they are recently being started. So in these properties become very important, that how much of sound transmissions are there. So tools like Revit can help us analyze the designs we have done, analyze the things that we have made. And that approach can really be very, very helpful in us making decisions. And try doing this in the traditional AutoCAD environment. Just imagine the amount of information and manipulation that you have to do to get the same output from AutoCADs. Now, again, this is another approach that the BIM approach actually leads us, is looking at something called the room data sheets. Now, in this particular example, what you have to realize is how we architects are required to support the clients. Every hospital projects will have tons and tons of equipment that we all know. And each equipment will have its own set of electrical requirements, the plumbing requirements, the air conditioning requirements. So how do you handle these data? So typically in a hospital project, you have a concept called the room data sheets. Now the room data sheets would list down what all equipment is coming in every room. So in the slide in front of you, you can see it's an example of a operation theater where you have all the equipment related that have been planned by the medical planners. Now, every medical planner has, after he's done it, the engineers can come in and then look at it and see what service outlets have to be given for these equipments. Now, these are something that this is how a typical floor plan of the room data sheet looks. And then you support it with some kind of a visual thing so that the doctors actually can look into it and and understand what is to be done, how the operation theaters are going to be handled. And this is how the completed sheet looks like. Now, what you have to understand is that, again, I'm going to sound a little repetitive, that there's immense amount of data. How do you handle it? So one of the very good tools that we used was in the same project that we showed, where we worked with a firm that we spoke about in AECOM. So they introduced us to a new platform, which was called the medical, it's a medical equipment planning website, which allows us to do it. So here, what you see is that how do you track each equipment? Each equipment has been assigned a CAD ID in this plan. And when you look at this plan and then you correlate it with the database, you will see that there will be an ID that has been assigned from the equipment planner side of it. And these both are linked up together in this platform. And then you would have a description, where in this description, you will have an equipment name, what is the manufacturer information, and what all has to be in the terms of cost. Now, these are at least a decade old. But what you will realize is that all of this information can also be built into the Revit platform also in your Revit BIM model. And apart from the cost, the departments can manage their budgets. The client can quickly pull out the budgets for their projects. They can very easily look at how much is the budgeted cost based on the planning, the planners, what they have put into the drawings. And it is somewhat related to what Madam Kalsi was talking about, the 5D thing, where they had the cost element also into it. Sorry, the 4D thing, where the cost element was also included in the Revit models. And the only way to track it is by, something called the room numbers. Now, in most of the Indian projects, we will realize that the room numbers are not given a due importance. So you have a room number, then you have a link that's linking to all the equipment that are hosted inside that particular room. And then from that room, every equipment will have an equipment ID, and that equipment ID will be linked to the manufacturer information, the cost information. and everything. And once this data is handed over to the client, they can continue using the same data what you've created for planning. They can use it for management of their sites. So coming to the end, I will summarize what we have discussed. The design of healthcare buildings is complex, and it involves coordination among all the stakeholders. There would be the policy makers, there would be the design teams, there will be contractors, there will be end users. And this usually causes a lot of conflicting requirement and causes in the design. And these changes this will cause changes across the project. As the project keeps on moving, it will cause changes. And we architects have to be ready to accept that these changes will happen. And we should modify our workflows to accommodate those changes. Because most of the time, we always see the consultants cribbing about, the client has changed certain things. All my drawings are now, changed. I'll need more time to redo the work. So we have to, BIM approach will allow you to change your workflow based on such changes. Then there will be, the changes, there will be conflicting requirements coming from the different stakeholders. There'll be people, there'll be consultants who will not agree to certain solutions that have been worked out earlier because of the changes. And managing and processing these kind of a design information becomes a very difficult task. And it is a very balanced approach that the architects, the healthcare designers have to take. So many presentations may lead to believe that, BIM approach is a one-stop solution for all of this. I will not say that, but I can definitely assure you one thing, that the BIM approach will help you. It will aid in managing the information that is floating outside. It will help you manipulate the data storage and exchanging that information with the different stakeholders. It will help you reduce the difficulties in coordinating the efforts. Moreover, it will help you manage the processes. So in short, I would say that it will help you avoid fragmentation of the information that is often seen in the healthcare projects. I have found the BIM approach to be very, very helpful. And I'm sure many of you will have similar examples on how you would have used BIM even more effectively and creatively. So I hope I would have been able to demonstrate how we did it. I will recommend that you must evaluate the BIM approach for your healthcare or any other projects for that matter. You will realize that it is one of the very good tools available. It will allow you to control the project with the least amount of efforts. And you will find it that your data that you create will go much beyond the design stage. The clients will find a very good value in once they start using your data. So thank you. With this note, I would like to end my presentation and hand the session back to the organizing team.
Thank you, Rohit sir. So it was very nice presentation, very enlightening, especially the first example which you took. So one of the biggest benefit of BIM is actually capturing the existing condition and coordinating it with the new design. I remember in second year, we used to measure drawings that it was very, a tedious job, and still it was not that accurate. But now with the help of technology, we can actually do the coordination much better and save time and money. And secondly, like you mentioned, I fully agree that basically a project is a collaborative effort of all consultant, contractor, and client also. So BIM actually help us to bringing the client also on the same platform, that is cloud. So it was really nice to see, sir. So thanks a lot, sir, for your time. So now quickly, we will move to a live demo by Shoaib, because we have overshot time. So Shoaib will finish it off in 5 minutes, and then we'll move to the Q&A session. So Shoaib, if you can share your screen.
Yeah, hello. I think my voice is audible, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just share my screen. So I think my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we took up a project. I'll take only 5 minutes and I'll just quickly show you one project. So this one project we took up for, it's an hospital project. It starts with the conceptual design. So it is designed like inspired from a human body, that it has limbs attached to a spine. So it has a central corridor as a spine and different wings to it. And with it, turned out is something like this. So it has, different wings to it. It's an architecture model, and it has, a core which is connecting to all wings. And there are level differences to provide, green spaces within this project. This is only the architecture part of it. That is why you see that, floor plates are missing in this, because floor plates were created in a structure model. So different teams worked on it and they collaborated on cloud. So like we mentioned, CD, Namrata ma'am and our Rohit sir actually mentioned about CDE. So we actually, I'll just show you the cloud platform. You just log in from anywhere. This is just the browser. I log in from this browser, Google Chrome, acc.autodesk.com. You log into our credentials, and then you go to that particular project. So in this case, I have multiple projects. I can just simply search for it. And I was recently working on this project, so that is why this project came up. So if I open this, as you may notice, there are different folders which are already created in it. And I can maybe navigate through multiple folders. Folders are created stage wise, and I can also, add members and can also manage members to restrict to a certain, permission level. So some are project admins, some are project members. We can also add few more members just to view it. We can also control their permission level as per their roles. I'll just quickly move to the folder. So this is the folder structure. I'm just directly going to the design development side. Here we have created different folders as per discipline. Under the architecture folder, you may notice that it's an architecture model. I'll click on it and I've already opened it. So this is the same architecture model. Similarly, under the structure folder, I have the structural model. I've already opened it. So this is the structure model. So it doesn't take much. You just click on it and it loads live. So this is the structure model. So I'll just close it from here because I've already opened here. In this structure model, and there is another model also from the MEP side. It has all the services, mostly HVAC. And so reviewers or from the client side, they can directly, check this model. They can also review the model. They can also check the embedded information just on cloud using any device. So if you have the internet access, you can just simply log in to acc.autodesk.com, and then you can just simply log into your credentials and you can get models updated here. So like I said, you can get the embedded information in it. So for example, if I select this particular column, and if I want to get the size of the column and the type of column which is used here, I can just go to the properties, and as you may notice, it's starting from level 7 TOS, and it's its height is 4 feet. And as you may notice, it has its area and volume, which are also given. And since it's a structure member, so it has other structure properties associated with. It's a metal column. And similarly, if I select any other component, it will show you that, like this slab is 6 inches slab. So it has all the information embedded here. Not only this, you can measure on cloud. For example, so I've just measured this. So maybe I can just put up these markers and measure other dimensions, and these dimensions will retain unless you maybe remove it. So these are some dimensions which are measured, and it is showing you other dimensions XYZ direction. And if I, for example, want to change the unit of any one of these, I can just anytime change from, like this is by default taking feet and inches because this project was developed in feet and inches earlier. Now I can change it to mm, and I can control its precision also. So I think this is quite easy in this case. I can also, cut sections through it. So maybe I'll just move to architecture model to demonstrate this part. So similarly, we can also measure in architecture model and others also. So you have different section options available. Like you can put up XYZ planes as a sectional plane. I've just selected the box. In this box, every face of this box is basically a section, and that is why it is known as section box. So it's a section plane, and as you may notice, it shows the internal details of this particular project, right? So later on, I actually clubbed all these. You can also, navigate into it. You can, so it has the real person mode. You can just move into first person also. But since time is less, so we'll explore this model later, maybe some other in some other workshop. But for now, I'll just show you the clubbed model. So I've federated all the models here, and it has all the services going on. So these all files are actually saved on cloud, and you can work locally here. And also you can make changes, and those will be updated to cloud. On cloud, you can also see the sheets. So I'll just mention these sheets also. So in this project, I have some sheets which were already created. One is conceptual design sheet. It has the conceptual model. One is site plan. We have different floor plans in it. And as you may notice, these different floor plans are actually assigned to these sheets. And these are all actually updated on cloud also. So once we upload a model along with it, its 2D and 3D data both actually reflects on cloud. So this is the same model. You can just go to the properties of it, and here we can also go for the sheets. So these are all those sheets which I just showed you offline on Revit, and these are also synced here. So as you may notice. So whatever changes will be made there in the from the consultant side will also be updated on cloud. And at any time, a person can put up a markup or a issue here, like a revision cloud, and can maybe those changes will be updated later. For example, I have some issue with this door because it doesn't have plinth in it. So for example, I'll just put up a circle here. I can just maybe change the appearance of the circle. We can also put up text and all, right? So for example, so I'll just change the height of the text. Maybe 10 points is fine. And I'll just not take the border. Sorry. This is text color. No border, I mean. Okay. So basically, I'll just edit the text. I'll just call check for this door, maybe. And I can simply publish it to a person. So all the team members will be notified about it, and I can also, add maybe other documents to it as a reference, and I can also assign a date here. So that, for example, after 1 month, this should be resolved. And if it is not resolved, it will automatically start generating notifications. And this is how we actually manage on cloud. And once all the assigned activities are done, then we can link all the discipline models on cloud, and clash report can be created there. So this is how cloud works. So I think due to I think time is already up, so I will hand this over to Farhad sir. So yes sir.
Thank you, Ishwar, for the quick explanation.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll arrange a technical session for you in
Yeah, sure.
some other workshop in detail, so people would love to see the practical application also. And you guys got the idea, na, how simple is it with the help of technology to handle such a complex project like hospital on cloud. So Shoaib was just kind of playing with the model. So now moving on. So before going to the Q&A session, I can see a lot of questions. Around 18 questions are already there. 19 questions are there. Quickly, so as Tulsi ma'am mentioned, we have DMRC with the BIM implementation. So we have two programs. One is BIM for design. So if you are an individual professional or you are in final year architecture or BTech civil engineering student, you can join this program. Its duration is 3 months and it happens after office hours. So basically the goal is that you get entry into the BIM industry, the design offices which are implementing BIM, and students get a lot of job offers, so more than 5. Similarly, if you are an organization, corporate office, so we help, we have the other program BIM Guru, which is annual support program for building the in-house team. If you decide that you want to completely transform your office and develop the internal BIM team, so this program is for you. And the goal is basically to increase the BIM maturity level of the organization. And basically we provide 4 things: training, project troubleshooting, Revit families, and BIM team hiring support. So all this is included in BIM Guru. So you guys can contact us if you want any further details. So Shweta, you can put in the email ID, marketing email ID for the reference for anyone who wants to contact us. Right. So now taking up the Q&A, because already we have skipped time. So I'll just take some important questions. So I can see question from one very famous person, architect Shamit Manchanda. He is, I think, chairman of Indian Institute of Architects. So I think this question is for anyone, actually both ma'am and sir. I mean, you guys can answer. So how does BIM implementation happen if not all consultants are on BIM? So, sir, ma'am.
Everybody on the project has to be on BIM. Like in one of the project, we insisted that even the escalator and lift people should make their model on the BIM. Only then it fits in. So BIM is a movement, everybody has to get onto it. Who doesn't want to get onto it will be left out in this moment.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, you want to add?
Rohit, you like to add? So before that, I just like to add what Madam Namrata said. So this is typically what we expect owners to be mandating. So, and this is exactly what has been happening now, that as an owner, they have been now mandating that everyone, if you want to work with us, you be on BIM. And this is how actually we are seeing more and more adoption of BIM, which is happening. Yeah, I'll pass on to Rohit from a design perspective.
I would say I would see it a little differently. It doesn't matter if anybody else is on BIM or not, but we as an architect should be on BIM. It will help us reduce the kind of workload at our end. It requires a lot of relearning. It requires us to actually rethink how the drawings have to be made. Imagine that you are manipulating only one file. In an architectural projects, when you look at a folder structure, there are tons and tons of files that come in. So at least the control of information, the flow of information, we can do it. So to answer Shamit's question, I would say it's very difficult if all consultants are not there on BIM, but that's all right. It doesn't prevent you from being on BIM. But at least the architect should try to be on the BIM, because the main important thing is what you're trying to do is not just the coordination. You don't need all the engineer, but all the services people to be on BIM. Just start with the architects and the structural information on BIM, and then it will follow up. The rest of the people will follow.
So here I like to also talk about something new which Autodesk is doing, and I can talk about it now because it's already a publicly announced information. On 27th September in Autodesk University, Autodesk has announced that they are moving to pure complete platform solutions. And which means that we are moving to an era where there are no file format. You have one single database for the entire project, no file format, just one single database, which is handled behind the screen on the cloud. Autodesk, in fact, have started talking about it. It might take 2 years to 3 years for that to come for architectural community, but they're moving to direction where you have one single, no file format, nothing else. You don't see any files anymore. That's where we are moving towards. And then which means everyone who is part of that platform, part of that project, will have to do everything through that platform. So it's moving to the next level of collaboration where you just directly work on a project. I'll encourage everyone to just search Autodesk University and you can go and listen more about it. And we'll be more than happy to bring more information about it as we get. But it's the next, we are moving now to the next, maybe version 3, or from CAD to BIM and now to a complete integrated platform.
Thank you, sir. So just one more question, and rest of the questions we can we'll be sending emails. So this question is from Mr. Nilesh. Is 4D and 5D integration was real time? How change management or change in BIM model taken care with respect to cost and time?
Can you show that question on the screen, Rahat?
It's not possible to show, but Mr.
Okay,
Nilesh
let me.
means, yeah, it's in the Q&A. But I can try to reiterate. So they are asking ki, was the updation of BIM model happening real time with your with respect to the cost and time simulation, with respect to your construction schedule?
Actually, what we are doing is we are having that stamp. In the stamp, the architecture model, rather the structure model, is taken and broken into modules. So that module report is completed in the sense that, like, if there is a D wall and there are 200 panels in the D wall, and let's say that the contractor has completed 10 modules. So then he will be able to show that I have completed these 10 modules. And if the modules are, I'm not able to build, what is the reason for that? For example, in one of the project, it may have been the tree cutting, or it may be that there is a gas pipeline moving in that area. So you are able to address that, because everybody knows tree cutting and moving gas pipeline does take time. So in case, because of this, you are able to remove the bottleneck well within the time. That means that time is money. So that is how you bring in economy.
So I think what I like to add is, like, this is a very typical construction stage issue, which
Yes.
is our cost and scheduling. So we have separate detailed sessions on this.
Exactly.
So we'll be more
Because
than
this
happy to
too short
show you
to
some of the, yes.
But I gave one indicative example that how we can reduce our bottleneck, and how, administrators can examine that whether the construction is going as per what has been claimed by the contractor and the site staff. So these are very key important issues.
Yeah, I think this question must have come when you were talking about Primavera. So,
Exactly.
and the way it's been integrated is the current time schedule, and any activity which is falling behind the schedule, those comparisons are there. But we like to do a more detail.
Because that is more an engineering outlook.
Yes.
Architect have slightly less involvement in that. So maybe I was not able to.
Yeah. From an engineering perspective, we have a very detailed session, and we'll be happy to show that. In this itself is a very critical component of any construction planning and scheduling.
That question must have come from a civil engineer who does billing and site monitoring. I can understand his agony.
Yeah, Mr. Nilesh works for Godrej, so that's why at the owner side.
Yeah. Rohit was probably adding his view.
No, Chakraji, I'm not the only, I have a theoretical example that I showed about that room data sheets where the clients were monitoring the cost part of it. And that was being done real time, that as and when you make some changes, the software can very easily pull out that information. So, I don't have a tested solution for this. It's just an experience I had with these room data sheets where the costing was tracked on a real-time basis or on a milestone.
Okay.
I agree with Rohit. Like, for example, somebody may feel that this particular specification is very costly, and we want to replace it with some other material. And we want to really see that if we change it, replace it with some other material, what effect does it have on the overall cost? Or is it really worthwhile? So these are some of the key answers that you can get while working on this software.
Good. Right, ma'am. So thank you, ma'am and sir, for answering. Now I would like to invite Amit sir to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rohit. I think it was at a short notice. We have requested both of you, and you agreed for this webinar. I think no word can, and if I'll say many words about Rohit or ma'am, about you, it will be undermine your achievements or your efforts towards technology in your respective areas. I remember Rohit as way back, I think 1990s. And I remember he was very enthusiastic about implementing technology for architecture. Earlier, it used to be prior to BIM days, it used to be, ADT,
Yes.
And in fact, he was very, very passionate about implementing technology for architecture, for healthcare. And I've been seeing him through his entire journey. I remember they got one of the largest medical or healthcare projects somewhere in Middle East, one of the largest floor plate, and the mission was to design using BIM or Revit. So I've seen Rohit and his team, during this entire last 20 odd years, and I would say hats off to Rohit. And ma'am,
Thank you.
What to say about you. I think you have done a great effort at DMRC, and even prior to that, I've been following you for your work in different areas, and now I remember, I just for the interest of all the participants who are there, thank you very much, all the participants. You were patiently hearing for last almost 1.5 hours. Just to say one incident about Ma'am Kalsi. It was pre-pandemic days. I think January 2020, Ma'am used to come to our office for learning Revit or BIM. And you won't believe, each one of you, Ma'am has just retired. So that means she is almost 60 years of age. At that time, our guard used to ask her, "Ma'am, we are closing the office." She used to sit in the office, practice on Revit, and that was the kind of her passion for technology. Hats off to you, ma'am. And I think during this pandemic days, you and your team were, really implemented technology, especially BIM 360, cloud collaboration, and made it possible for DMRC or in phase 4 to go on this BIM journey. So, and our efforts always to have eminent speakers, personalities in this field, to bring them on this platform for our larger audience or users or clients, to share their experiences, their challenges even, and way forward. So just to say, Shamit has asked one question, and Rohit has answered that. And Shamit and Rohit used to be best friends. They are
still are.
No, that's what I'm saying. You guys are, I think, one of the best friends. You are one of the busiest professional in your profession. But our platform has provided you to ask question and answer that. So that means it's worth doing such efforts. So idea is, it may be a little awkward. We are talking about still BIM, but I think it still makes sense to have eminent speakers, personalities from the industry, and to bring them here for the larger, interest of all our fraternity. Thank you very much, ma'am. Once again,
Thank you.
And Rohit will be bothering you again in future, and will be taking your services. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you, Amitji. Thank you, Jagresh. Thank you for
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And all the participants, have a great day. Anything related to BIM, please come to our team, and we'll have solution for each one of you. Bye-bye.